Okay, we've actually got the MAPS test done. We're working on them. And we have the next most important question we can ask is, we're done. So now what are we going to do with that information? Well, one of the first things we have to be able to do is access that information. So what I have for you is a short video showing how to get into the NWEA reports site, how to access the reports, and what those reports are going to tell you. So the first thing you got to do is go to the NWEA reports website, and that is here at the top where it says reports.nwea.org/ and you don't need the login.aspx, it's just reports.nwa.org. And when you go to this site, you should get a page that looks like this. Now, Mr. Woggy was kind enough to email out everybody their password or username and password. For the purposes of this training video, I am going to be Julie Claver for the day. And so I've got her username and password in already. And I'm going to click, once that's in, I'm going to click log on. This should take me to a website that shows Welcome to Cal Community Schools, and it gives information down the right-hand side of the page about all the different reports that are available, especially here in the middle of the page. It kind of gives you a description of each of these reports. But first we're going to come through. On the left-hand side is these reports where it says online reports. The first one we're going to look at is the teacher report. So if you click on teacher report, it should come up. And the first thing it's going to do is ask the term. And the reports that we're looking for this testing cycle is the fall 2012. Now you can go back and look at previous years to see where students were, say last year or last fall, and look at growth. But right now we're going to stay on this, and we're going to view by writ ranges. And so I hit submit. The writ range is a correlation between the standards and benchmarks a student knows and the score that they get on the MAPS assessment. So with this report, you can see that we have the list of students, and then you can see their writ range for mathematics fall 2012. And then each of the categories within this, so that you can see how students fall under specific topics. Now, if you remember that website I put out yesterday, the Standards Insight, that one would break down each and every standard and benchmark in 4th grade based on these categories under goal performance. So you could go in and look exactly what concepts and skills need to be taught to show an improvement in these scores, because at 4th grade we can break down, and it's just 3 or 4 standards for each one, so you can look at these. So that's the first report that you can look at, and this just gives you a class breakdown, shows where they are, percentile range, and where they would expect to fall. This percentile range is where they would expect to fall on the Iowa assessments. So that's report number 1 that you can look at. You can also go to the second report is class rosters. So if you look at this one, it'll bring up a web page, and it will show her class roster for the topic that you've selected, or we can change it to, let's go ahead and change it to reading and hit submit. And what it'll do is it'll show the class roster, and then by clicking on an individual's name, it'll bring up a page that gives you the goals and the overall growth of each individual student. Now, these documents are exceptional for parent-teacher conferences when sitting down and discussing with mom and dad the importance of the assessment and how the child has grown throughout the years. And you should be able to see, there'll be some fluctuations, but the numbers are there that show each one of those. But the second page will have the concepts and processes on here. They have some some notes on here that explain what's going on. But talking with mom and dad about each of these things, or even looking at the growth of a student, if we feel that a student is struggling, and this range of the student's scores here in the middle is showing a decrease every single year, then we need to sit down and refer to at-risk or put some interventions in to help students. That's where these reports become outstanding for us. So you can click on, we can close that out. So you can see that for each individual student. So if you have an upcoming conference, that is an excellent way to get information to mom and dad. Now, one of these things that we could do is we click over to Graph and hit Submit. And then we do the same student. And then under Graph, you can see a pattern where you have the student, the district, and the norm group. So you can compare the student's growth to other people, or just look at the dark blue line that shows this is where the growth is. So these pieces are available for all teachers and for all students in your classes. The next report that we look at is class by subject. And in this case, we're going to go back to reading again. And the term is fall 2012. The class is Mrs. Claver's reading, and it's going to be the reading test. And the test name just is, that's how we're going to group them. You can group by ethnicity, gender, or no grouping. And the select the order, you can rank them by their Writ scores or alphabetically by student name. So with this, we hit submit again. And on this report, we pull up basically a class roster for the reading test that shows the test type, test date, their Writ score that they achieved, the standard error, and the range gives an idea of the give and take involved in this. Percentile, and that's where we would expect them to fall on the Iowa assessments, and then their Lexile range. And that Lexile range helps us select books for kids as well as leveling kids into groups. Many of these library books and books that we have in the classrooms are Lexiles, so you can choose, have kids read at the appropriate level and really get somewhere in their reading program. So that's what this one does. Now, in a lot of these, you'll see right here where it says to create a PDF, click here. What that'll do is it'll take you to a page where it'll bring up one of those open window boxes again, and then you can print this out really easily. Firefox does have some issues creating these PDFs. Chrome has done a very good job with it. Safari I haven't used, I don't know, but you can give it a try. If it doesn't generate, Chrome does do a good job of that. Okay. So the next one then was class by subject. Then we're going to go grade by subject. And for us, really, grade and class are almost identical. But we can select our grade right here. We want to make sure that the fall term is 2012, but we'll go back to 4th grade again. And we're going to select the reading score. And again, these two I just want to list by test name and student name, and I'm going to hit select. And what I get is basically the same list. It doesn't change because we don't have multiple grades. This would be for a larger school where they could compare all 4th graders across multiple teachers. So now, the last one, students not tested, you might be able to see that. We sent in a roster at the beginning of the year, so we should be able to see those. But the next big one that we want to look at is the class by Writ. And that one, when you select, will bring up a fall term, and we can select our class, the reading class, and we hit submit. And what this is going to do is give us a breakdown of the class in a band. So under mathematics, we can see that this student fell in this range, this one in this range. The bulk of them fell in this range. And then you have some outliers on the top side too, but it allows us to look at ability groups even, or to look at how we might create classroom collaboration groups to build a better lesson on this. And I will explain these numbers to you in just a minute, but these numbers have a significant meaning as well as we look at the skills that students have. The Writ scores, or the Writ bands up here, relate directly to standards and benchmarks that kids have mastered, are 50% on, and need to be introduced to. And I'll show you that report. That's called a Descartes down here. But in this category, the other thing I want to show you then is in reading. I can select reading, and we can see this band, but we can go even further into detail by having the the reading group broken down to each one of the categories: foundations, informational text, literature, and then the breakdown of where students are in this. Now you can see that we can also highlight the students' names once we're into this mode. So I can go over to the student again and hit select. And once this is up, we generate a report again that shows the student's score, the writ range, and gives us a little bit of information. But as we go through, what it does do is it gives us an idea that in this one, and you can see that in this category, that the skills and concepts to enhance, that he scored 73% or higher on all these questions here. In this one, it was 50%. So he was about 50-50, half right. And in this one, missed most of them when they came up for questions. Now, they're not right or wrong answers, but this is the skills that have been mastered. The middle column is the skills that they're so-so on, we need to recover. And the final column over here is the skills that need to be introduced. So as you go back and you look at these skills and concepts based on your class breakdown, you can identify exactly what skills and concepts need to be taught to help increase the scores. And each one of these skills and concepts are tied to the Iowa assessments, but they're also tied to the MISIC curriculum and the Common Core curriculum. So it's not teaching to the test. We're teaching to the skills that students have and pushing them to the next category. That's our goal. So this report is extremely useful when looking at your class. If you're used to teaching this skill, but when you go back to this page, you find out that none of your students are even close to that skill. We have to adjust our curriculum. So this report allows us to really take a close look at our class and see where they are and what we need to do. It's a very powerful report for everybody to be utilizing. Now, if you want to know more information about each one of those bands and where people are at, because in each student it only gives the one below, the one that they're at, and the one above. If you want to see more than that, we can go to the Descartes. Now in the Descartes, we can look up the, let's say, the math 2 through 5. We want to know the geometry or number and operations in base 10. And we can look at the combined. We can print out all of them. What it'll do is generate a report. Give it a second. Generate a report for each and every one. Here's the bottom end, the next band, and as we scroll down, you can read all the skills and concepts placed on number operations in base 10 through all the levels, and it'll take you up through. So you can see where your group is supposed to be. So this is a global skills chart. It basically lists every single one of the numbers and skills that students need to know to be successful at that grade level. It's a massive report. I would not suggest printing it out. Most of them run 30, 40, 50 pages long. But it is a good resource to look things up and see where you're at on this. The other place to go would be that Standards Insight to be able to look at the grade level and the breakdown there. Now, these are the primary reports that you're going to be using as you look at your classes and students. Please use them, and if you have questions, come see me. There are a couple other people in the building that have been using these quite well. Miss Wessels has been using them. Mr. Folkerts has been using them. Even Julie's been using them a bit, and Miss Showalter off the top of my head. So if you have questions, seek out help to use these reports. They're very good, and they give a great description not about how our kids compare to other students, but how our kids compare to the skills they need to be successful. So take the time, take a look at it. If you need help, don't be afraid to give me a call. I'll come down and walk you through some of these and help you get them implemented into the classroom. Once again, thanks for your time, and I hope this video helps. Have a great day.